Welcome to Build and Grow with Real Estate, where we talk about real estate and how to build the kind of life you want for yourself. My name is Josh Weidman. I'm an investor and a hard money lender with Hard Money Bankers. HMB provides private funding for real estate investors in Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey, Delaware, Northern Virginia, and Washington, D.C. If you'd like to know how you can get all of the funding that you need for your next real estate investment project, I've got a free report that you won't want to miss. It's called 7 Steps to a Guaranteed Hard Money Loan Approval. You can download the free report at the link that's at the top of this video or in the description. If you're listening to this on a podcast, it's in the description of the podcast. So check it out. My guest today is Judah Hoover. Judah is a good friend of mine and has been the co-host of this show for about the last 14 months. Judah is an executive at Slate House Group, a Lancaster-based brokerage and property management firm. He's also a seasoned real estate investor, real estate agent, and he runs a monthly RIA meetup group. So his meetup group, Landlords and Investors Mastermind Group, meets in Harrisburg on the fourth Thursday of every month. It's a really great opportunity to network with other investors and learn a ton about investing. Judah is a super entertaining guy and full of a ton of energy. Today's interview is no exception.
All right, Judah, wonderful. Look, I want to first kind of announce to people that, we've got a little bit of shift in the program. We're going to be doing something a little bit different. And I mean, Judah and I, if you've been watching the show, you know that Judah and I took a little bit of a hiatus. We haven't been broadcasting as consistently as we had in the past. And we had some different stuff going on in our life. Imagine that, right? Life changes, right? COVID's opening up. Exactly. So Judah's going to be on the show from time to time, but he's not going to be hosting it with me on every day. He's got a lot of listings that are, happening through Slate House, dealing with the sale and kind of the transition of Slate House Group. And I mean, honestly, man, I don't know. I didn't prep you for this. So, I'd love to kind of hear what's going on with Slate House Group and then, and jump into some of these interview questions. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that my bio and then what's been going on with Slate House Group kind of makes a really good and seamless transition because what I've always been is a full-time real estate investor and a full-time something else. So yeah. I was in the mortgage world for about 15 years. And so I did commercial loans, residential loans, hard money loans. At the same time, I was a real estate investor myself. One of the lessons that I've learned in my life, we can delve into this a little bit more later, is you never really quit your job. Your job just kind of changes. And so I realized that. And for me, what's always been very beneficial is having a job associated with real estate. And for about the past 5 years, what that's looked like and what that's been has been an executive and a partner at a company called Slate House Group. And we recently took on a role within a larger company, and we are now Home 365. It's a really awesome opportunity that we have as a company, because what we're going to be doing is, I don't want to make this all about, Home 365, but essentially we are going to do to property management what Uber did to the taxi industry, or what Netflix did to the movie rental industry. And nationwide, there are about 30,000 individual property management companies, and they usually manage around 250 to 600 units. And so we think that industry is really ripe for disruption. And our goal is to leverage tech in some really interesting ways and get to about 100,000 units in the next 3 years. And just at the same time, make everything 1,000% better. So imagine utilizing tech. Josh, if I were to Venmo you money, you could decide to leave that money in your Venmo, or you could decide to pull, if I Venmoed you $100, you could leave 100 of it in there, or you could pull 25 out, or you could pull 50 out, or you could pull all of it out right away. And that's what we're going to do. What's one of the big things we're going to be doing with property management is not waiting until one time of the month to kind of distribute to all owners. So owners will have like an account with us that they can pull that money as soon as it's there, as soon as it's available, whenever they want. We can also set it up that it will be automatically sent. A whole lot better utilization of tech for maintenance. So a tenant takes a takes a video of what the problem is, and then through their voice and the pictures, AI figures out what the problem is, figures out whether that's a big job, small job, medium job, probably what's wrong with it. It's scary how good AI can get at diagnosing a problem, and then send that right to a vendor. The vendor quotes it. As long as it meets our algorithms, some owners want approval, some owners don't want approval. It gets approved, and it goes from there. The other thing that we're looking at rolling out is a product called One Rate, where instead of paying, 7, 8, 9%, maybe paying a slightly higher rate, but then we'll take on the risk of all vacancies and we'll take on the risk of all maintenance. So imagine, Josh, you buying a rental property, and what's the biggest variable with rental properties? Maintenance and vacancy. And so if you can know, now listen, if the roof goes out, that's obviously, it covers maintenance items. It doesn't cover capital improvements and capital expenditures. That's a different, that's a different subset of what you have to spend your money on. But we can insure against all of those variables, and it just makes a lot of sense. So that helps me be a better investor. That helps me take other people's investing to the next level, and so I get to be an entrepreneur kind of two ways at the same time, both as the executive of a company and also helping other people invest.
All right, so I want to call a timeout here, because I don't think, if you're watching the show, you might not realize the impact that this has, because you kind of glazed over it. But the most vulnerable position to be in as a real estate investor is the guy who has one investment property. Right. Because you've got one tenant, you've got one income, and it's all or nothing. Right. So being able to commoditize that space is humongous. It's such a huge opportunity, and the integration of AI and kind of data analysis at a huge scale is really an amazing implementation. I was reading up about this company, and when you were telling me about the merger, and the potential of this a couple of weeks ago, I was super impressed with what they've been able to put together, and like the implications of this in the industry. I mean, it really is a game changer, like Hoover.
I'm hoping that it allows a lot of people who maybe have been sitting on the fence, and that fear of uncertainty has prevented them from moving forward. Listen, Josh, and I know that, especially in this market, if you buy a relatively good property, the chances of maintenance killing you is not really that big of a deal. If you buy a relatively good property, that you're going to make enough money to take care of any vacancies that come up in the first year or two or three, and then hopefully after that you've got enough of a reserve account to take care of that stuff. So it's kind of a fear that's a misnomer, because it doesn't actually come up that often, but it still prevents a lot of people from taking action. Josh, you and I have been in this space for a long time, and one of the things that I've always tried to do with my career is take those looky-loos, those newbies, those wannabes, those people who are in search of that elusive first deal, and get them over the hurdle to actually get them into the water and see that the water's fine, come on for a swim. And I'm hoping that this technology is going to mean that there's a whole lot more investors. What does that mean for guys like you, Josh? You're a real estate investor and a service provider. Hopefully that means you have a lot more clients. Hopefully that means that people who wholesale have a lot more people to wholesale to. Hopefully that means realtors have a lot more people to buy and sell real estate from. So the hope is that not only we can do some consolidation of the existing space, we don't just want a bigger piece of the pie that's there. We want to radically grow the pie though as well, which is good for everybody.
And here's the really cool thing about this. So I had a property management company for 5 years until we sold it. And it's funny, because you said, that 200 to 600 units, before you reach those kind of levels as a property manager, you think, oh man, when I get to 200 units, I'm going to start making money. And then it's 400 units, and then it's 600 units. You get to 600 units and you look around and you say, my goodness, I'm working my butt off 7 days a week. I've got employees working their butt off. I've got to double this and keep my cost basis the same in order to really start making money on this thing. I mean, and you're dealing with a lot of negative elements of the business just in general, and it can beat you down, right?
Yeah.
But what I see is like the lower end properties, to be able to commoditize those type of investments and have an algorithm that says, hey, look, we have a portfolio of 100,000 units, or even 50 or 10,000 units. We know that properties in these type of markets perform like this, and you know what? You can invest in this low value property, and we can pretty much guarantee that you're going to see about $100 a month in income here, and guarantee it out. Well, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but having that guaranteed income, I'll tell you, I've seen investors jump into the space in those low dollar properties, and in a very short period of time, they're just done, because
Right.
it's maintenance call, non-payment of rent, eviction, and like that happens in the first 8 months. They're losing $10,000 on a $30,000 property, and it's like, what the heck is going on here? When you commoditize that market, there's going to be a lot more money invested into those type of properties, which raises all the boats in the area, which now you can afford to go and improve those properties because the values are higher. You can afford to have a better quality of housing for tenants. I mean, it's a plus all the way around. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah,
It's really exciting.
Exactly. Exactly. Just like, people don't think about, that $10, $15, $25 a month you're spending at Netflix, but it really adds up for Netflix. And then what they're able to do is come up with Netflix exclusive shows and stuff like that. So they've not only consolidated the space, right? There are no more rental spaces, or there are no more, movie rental spaces, but there are a whole lot more
streaming options,
streaming direct to streaming content that they support and put out there. And there's still just as many movies being made and other stuff like that. So they're able to add a whole lot more back into the marketplace. And that's exactly what we're hoping to do. That's
really cool. All right. So let's jump in and talk about you. Like we've been doing this show for a year and a half. And like, I don't think we've ever even talked in a lot of depth about who we are. And I'd love to just, I'm going to jump into the questions, So what do you think, looking back on your life, what is the most important thing that you've learned? It's really hard to put a, finger on one thing, but.
So I think the most important lesson that I've learned, when it took a while from it to get from my head to my heart, like this is one of those things where you have to not only know it, you have to learn it. And that is, Paul talks about this in the New Testament. I don't need to be super preachy, but being content with where you are, but always striving for more. Listen, you need to be content wherever you are. You cannot think as soon as I have 10 properties, I'll be happy. Or as soon as I bring my wife home from her job, I'll be happy. Or I'm not happy because I live in this house or whatever. You need to be content no matter what your situation is. Now, when Paul said that, he was unjustly imprisoned for his beliefs, and he was so cold, he wrote somebody who was like 6 months travel away and said, hey, can you send so and so over here with my coat because I'm cold, I need a blanket at night. That's how bad and low and miserable he was. And he still told people, but you know what, I'm content where I am. So learning to be content where I am, but not being lazy there. See, there's a lot of people who live in squalor, even in America, and they're content there because of video games and buying the newest pair of shoes and vegging out on Netflix and other things like that. There's these drugs that we don't think of as drugs that lull us into laziness, and they don't actually give us fire, and they quench the fire in our belly so we're not hungry for more. So the biggest lesson I've learned in life is, and not just learned it, is to be content where I am, no matter where I am. Be content, but always strive for more. And if you can do that, that's just happiness.
That's great. That's great. So what is it that makes you feel inspired? What is it that, that makes you feel like you're living your best life?
Spending time with my kids. I have a friend who's a realtor who, and living the life that I want to live. I don't own a yacht. I don't, take 2 6-month vacations a year. There's a lot of people out there who they talk about, I flip houses and I wholesale for my laptop on the beach. That's BS. Or duplicatable. That just doesn't actually happen. What I think is baller is not the guys who work
80 hours a week and own 500 rental properties and flip 30 houses a year. What I think is inspiring is the people who I saw during pandemic. I know a realtor who has 11 rental properties, and we were shut down in Pennsylvania, could not buy or sell houses. She lost her income, didn't miss a beat in her lifestyle because she had rental properties. So having income that matches your lifestyle, that gives you a truly stress-free environment, be that stress-free at this level, stress-free at this level, stress-free at this level, whatever your level is, being able to say, you know what, that's great. That's not a big concern for me. That I've got time freedom. I've got time freedom. You know what? I've got some partners and some supervisors and other things like that at work, some direct reports that I report to. But I also know that if the mother of my kids calls and says that there's a doctor's visit for one of them and she needs me to pick them up or drop them off or whatever, that's not a problem at all. I know a lot of guys, when they go through a divorce situation or something like that, and it's tragic, they have to have their kids less than 50% of the time. And because they have a job or they own a business that is a job and they're beholden to that. Time freedom, true flexibility wherever you are. And listen, I work more than 40 hours a week. I put the time in. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But I have the freedom and flexibility, and having that type of lifestyle and seeing other people who have that type of lifestyle, that's what inspires me.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool to see you at the last real estate investors meeting in Harrisburg and have your kids be there and like to go through the life and air, experience with your guests. Like I thought that was really cool. Yeah. I gotta say, your kids were much more well behaved than mine would have been in the situation.
Well, that's great.
It was a testament. That's really cool. That's good stuff.
That's what inspires me, man. Like, because of a deal I just did, I just got a big check. I'm not bragging. I probably shouldn't even say this on the air, but I'll share some details. And it's going to be taxed at the end of the year, but I was able to take 10% of that check and just write a check right to my church. You know what I mean? I'm able to spend a lot of time with my kids. I'm not bragging about me. I'm bragging about I got inspired to be that way because I saw other people living that lifestyle, other people that we've had as guests on this show. And I said, you know what? I don't want 250 houses. I don't want to make $1 million a year. I want that stress-free, carefree lifestyle. And Jason Wojo talked about it with Life in Air, is building the life you actually want. Even if it's a little bit more modest, you're going to have true peace. I know one of the questions you're going to ask me here, but I think it ties in really nicely, is what's the biggest compliment somebody ever paid you? Yeah. I've been through some really rough and tough stuff in my life. And I was talking to a business friend and mentor of mine for about 40 minutes on the phone the other day. And you know what he said to me? He said, Judah, as soon as you were on the phone with me in the first 45 seconds, I could just hear an inner peace in your voice that I haven't heard in a long time.
That's great.
He didn't say, Judah, I love seeing what you're doing with your kids. Judah, I hear you're making, a lot more money than a lot of other people. Hey, Judah, I love, this, that, or other things about your life. He said, Judah, I hear an inner peace in your voice. And you know what? That's awesome. That to me is a compliment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a huge compliment. I mean, and it relates in every other aspect of your life. Like people just, they're attracted to that kind of feeling in people.
But I want to say to people, if you're not there, get there. If you're not there, right, work to get there without grumbling, without complaining. Be content. If you're, be content and work on being content in spite of everything that you're dealing with right now. And just understand that if you can't do the push-ups without ending up getting the muscles, right? So right, if you put the work in and you slowly, consistently build the lifestyle you want, don't build the lifestyle you don't want and then be surprised when you have a lifestyle you don't want. A lot of people build a 150 unit portfolio and then they're surprised when they don't have the lifestyle they want. Well, you didn't specifically design it to be what you want.
That's a great call. That's a great call. All right, so we talked about what makes your business kind of unique, right? And like this idea of transforming an industry. To piggyback on that, who's your ideal customer? because I think that's that's one of those things that goes into lifestyle, right? And building that lifestyle. If you've got a business, you got to know who that ideal customer is in order to have the lifestyle that you want. So I'm gonna put it out there, put that on you. Who's your ideal customer?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Josh. And I want to, before I answer that question directly, I want to say how important that question is, because this is the second thing that is the biggest lesson I've learned in my life, is not chasing every customer, but chasing my ideal customer. And also a big thing that I do in my life is network a lot. And I ask that question of people because I want to hear, do they have a clearly defined customer? So think about, let's just take one group of people that might be looking for referrals, right? So let's take a realtor. And if you talk to a realtor and say, hey, friendly realtor from my church, what does your ideal customer look like? Because I'm an investor and I like to make referrals to realtors. What does your ideal customer look like? If that realtor says, oh, my ideal customer is like people who are looking to move up and get a bigger house, or people who are first-time home buyers, or maybe people who are 65 and looking to downsize, those are my ideal customers, or real estate investors. I like working with real estate investors. I mean, if they say everybody's my ideal customer, that's a problem. And that's somebody who you want to avoid. Second piece on this piece of advice is, if somebody asks, if you ask that question and they don't ask that of you within the next 3 to 5 minutes of that conversation, they don't understand how referrals work, and they're not interested in making referrals to you as well. They're interested in just getting referrals from you. And don't waste your time with people like that. Don't waste your time giving referrals to people who it doesn't even immediately pop to their mind, oh, I should make referrals to you as well. They might say, yes, I'll make referrals. They might talk about it, but actions speak louder than words, and actions are based on your thoughts and how your brain is wired. And if you ask somebody the question, what's the ideal referral look like to you? And they don't immediately respond back within the next 2 to 3 minutes, what does the ideal referral look like to you? Their brain isn't wired right to actually generate referrals with you. They want to generate referrals from you. So, I always have my hand in 2 or 3 different things at once. So I wear the realtor hat. I'm a realtor. One of the things that I like doing is I've found a really creative way to help wholesalers never have to build a buyer's list. So if you're a wholesaler and you're doing okay locking up properties, and you recognize that 15 to 20 to sometimes even 50% of your time is on the disposition of those properties, finding people to buy those properties. I, because of my network and because of a whole bunch of other things like that, I've got some really creative ways, not totally unique, but pretty creative ways of helping wholesalers dispose of properties, or flippers dispose of properties. So I'd love to work with flippers and wholesalers from the realtor space. From the property management space, man, I just look to get people to the next level. I don't sell property management. I help people get their first property, or get from 5 properties to 10 properties, or get from 100 properties to 115 properties. You know what I mean? Like, I help people get to the next level. And oftentimes that involves, doing stuff with hard money. But Josh, I mean, I don't want to call you out here, but like, I help people get to the next level. And so therefore people help me. And guess what? Oftentimes they need a money source. How many referrals have I sent to you? I mean,
plenty.
Dozens. Right.
Exactly.
And because what people need is a, Josh, was it you? Yeah. You texted me the other day and said, who's your best insurance guy? Was that you? You needed renters insurance.
Because you already gave me your best insurance guy, and I refer him out everywhere because he's awesome.
Me. It just happened so quick. Somebody said, hey, Judah, I need a renter's insurance guy. Who do you know? Boom. I sent him to him. I didn't then also follow up and say, by the way, if you're ever looking to list or sell real estate, give me a call. By the way, are you ready to, have those properties be managed? I just help people. You know what I mean? And that's just who I am and what I'm about. So if you want to get to the next level in real estate, give me a call.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Okay. So here's a tough one. This is my favorite question of the list here. At your funeral, what's one thing that you hope people say about you? And like, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Yeah, I want to be known as somebody who was a giver. I want to be known as somebody who lit up a room when they come in. I want to know, listen, I'm get choked up saying this. I pray with my kids every day. And what I pray with my kids every day is, guys, and I also say this to them when I drop them off at school, but I pray it every day with them and I drop them off at school and I say, guys, people should say there's just something different about those Hoover kids. There's just something different about that Hoover family. And that's honestly what I want. If I help 100 people and because of different referrals that I make, sometimes I get a referral feedback or listing a property or property management. Let's say I help 100 people and I profit on 25 of them.
Yep.
I want to have a legacy that says Judah Hoover, instead of trying to take his profit from profiting on 25 of those people to profiting on 30 or 45 of those people by adding other services or doing other things, I want to be known as the guy who tried to help 200 people.
Yeah.
I'm trying to expand my funnel, not necessarily up the conversion rate of my funnel, if that makes sense. That's so I don't know how that's going to be distilled or what people are going to say about me at my funeral, but that's what I want to be known as, is that Judah was just the go-to guy in real estate. He was somebody who was always looking to help and did not care if there was a direct route back to profit for him, because that's and like when you're broke, when you're having a hard time paying the bills, it is hard to live that way, and it is hard to be authentic about that. But if you authentically live that out, the blessings just come.
Yeah. Dude, that's great. All right. So we've known each other for a bit here and talked every day for quite some time. So what should I ask you that I didn't know enough to ask? I mean, what's the one question that I should be asking you that I don't even know enough about you to ask?
Well, I think that one of the things that, for Judah Hoover, that's been like the differentiator in my life, and this kind of gets back to what we just talked about, is I've run a real estate investors club. We also, did this podcast that we did over the summer, was really all of last year. Daily was an extension of that. And I think that the way that I find the most amount of my deals is by running a real estate investor club. The way that I find business partners, job opportunities, the way that I find those referral sources is by being plugged in and committed to being very active in the real estate investing community. So the biggest thing that I think, now I've become a leader in that community, at least here in Central PA. I'm not Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm not a big national speaker or anything like that. I'm not trying to claim any of that stuff. But I think that the biggest differentiator on my life has been being a leader in the local real estate investing community. And would I love to be statewide or national or whatever, and be invited on CNBC and all those other shows and stuff like that to talk about real estate? Sure, absolutely. Would I love to speak at Grant Cardone's 10X conference and stuff like that? Sure, absolutely. However, what you can where you can, and so I run a local real estate investors club. And I'm the main admin for Central PA Real Estate Investors. And those two organizations have just really been a game changer for me. They've also been personally fulfilling. You said you saw me there at the conference, where you saw me at my investors club, and that's where I draw energy from. I got to co-host the conference that we just did with Eric Cabral and Chad Gallagher. And that was so much fun doing that. And that's really, I mean, it sounds vain, it sounds prideful, but I really come alive in front of a room and in front of a crowd. And a lot of people are terrified of that. There's the old story that we've all heard 100 times. If you list out what people are afraid of, public speaking always comes above death. And so at a funeral, people would rather be the person in the casket than the person giving the eulogy.
Isn't that crazy?
So,
right?
I'm just not wired that way. I love public speaking, and it is my comfort zone. So I really That's always been a real treat for me.
That's awesome. Judah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. It's been a pleasure to have you on here, and it's been a pleasure running the show with you. It's been awesome, dude. Thanks for being on the show today. We're gonna have you back a lot, whether you like it or not. And dude, I'm pumped to get back out into meeting in real life, and start getting out to these networking events and like specifically come hang out with you in person.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, I got to say before we go, Josh's ideal customer looks like anybody who needs hard money, and he's absolutely awesome. He basically won't let you do a bad deal. If Josh won't fund your deal, you need to ask yourself hardcore whether you should even be doing this deal. So if you are looking for a money source in central Pennsylvania, you absolutely need to give Josh Weidman a call, and he will get all the money you need for all the flips you're trying to do.
You're too kind. So Judah, how does somebody get in touch with you if they want to start networking with you? They want to come out to your investment group, or they want to hire you guys for property management?
Yeah, just Google Judah
How do people
Hoover.
get in touch with you?
Honestly, the easiest thing to do is just Google Judah Hoover, and you'll find my investors club that way. You'll find my company that way. You'll find my real estate listing services that way, and you'll just Google Judah Hoover, and that's the greatest thing about the internet these days is if you Google Judah Hoover, I'll be the first one that comes up.
Awesome. Judah, thank you so much, guys. Thanks for joining us. We're running up on our half-hour mark. I really appreciate it, Judah. Don't hang up. And guys, we'll see you again on the next show. Thanks for joining us. And hey, until next time, go out and make some money. Take care.
See you, everybody.